That request for the extension was granted and approved by the Board of Supervisors last night. So we'll be marking that as exhibit number 1 for tonight's hearing. By way of exhibit number 2, the Board of Supervisors also during last night's meeting acknowledged receipt of correspondence from the School Conservation District. That's dated August 4th, 2026. And it's a letter that was addressed to Amazon Data Services with regard to its comments as to the application for an NPDES permit, and it indicates areas of concern that need to be addressed. And so that exhibit was addressed to Amazon, but copied in was the Township. So that will be marked as hearing exhibit number 2 for tonight's purposes. If I can get back to the meeting notice, the meeting notice is posted on the front door as you enter. The same meeting notice that I just read was published in the Standard Speaker on Sunday, August 2nd and Sunday, August 9th, advertising this hearing. So that will be marked as exhibit number 3 for tonight. As the commission members, it's their understanding that at this point we will turn over the matter to Amazon for purposes of comments and presentation. It would be the intent that if the members of the commission have any questions, they will ask that as we make the presentation. If not, we would then turn it over to the township engineer, KTMA's engineer, and the UCC firm with regard to the township for their questioning. At the end of that, planning commission members will be given the opportunity to follow up with any questions, and then at conclusion, we will then have public participation. So that will be somewhat of a loose agenda for tonight's hearing. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do Amazon.
For those of you who were not here on June 30th, July 1st, my name is Evan Queso with the AWS Real Estate Land Development team. To my right is Jeff Wilhelm from Reed Smith, and to the far right is Kyle George from Kline Engineering, the civil engineer director for this project. We're glad to be here presenting Kline Township again. This is a reminder. Presented on June 30th, July 1st, with a PLD Again, as a summary, quickly, project is 380 acres surrounded by Interstate 1 on the north side, Loft Road on the south, and House Street east, all in some industrial, with data centers permitted. We required all entitlements and permits as issued during the Brewster project. So we purchase the property, we require those permits, and we can township resident and taxpayer for the over years. Again, just getting folks familiar with it. So again, to summarize the project, it's 9 data center buildings, include a substation, which is located here. This is our representation of data center buildings. It is a secure facility. Our main and secondary access will be off Austin Road. You'll remember from the first couple of nights, we are realigning Austin Road and adding a traffic signal at the intersection of 309. As part of our plan, as part of the original Brewster approvals, our project generates about 70% less traffic than the Brewster plan. So we're doing the same improvements, but we're doing less traffic. And this includes this will include a 500,000 square foot collection Brewster plan. So less overall square footage Brewster group plans. And we'll see these large forested areas here. These are back conservation areas along Interstate 1, along the outside. Those will stay So one of the pieces of feedback from the last meeting was distance to property boundaries. And what we did was we dimensioned to the property boundary rather than the house itself. So if you think about these numbers here, when you're thinking about the distance to the home itself where folks sleep, those numbers are going to be higher because we dimensioned only to our property. So on the add-on side, the closest property to the corner of the substation is about 435 feet. And the closest add-on residential property line to data center building, would be this right here. That's about 750 feet. And then on the lofty side, we're looking at close to 1,500 feet from the data center building to the nearest residence. So we received feedback that there might have been a structure missing from satellite imagery in order to make sure that was clear, and I don't want to be anything out, and just make sure that the property line we received also a lot of questions and feedback on acoustics. We received these questions from the Commonwealth of the township has an existing noise ordinance. It's not part of the zoning or the salvo, but it is part of the overall township code. I'm not going to pretend to be an acoustical engineer, and I won't try to explain the differences between decibels and octave bands. So current township ordinance is on octave bands, but suffice it to say that the decibel limit based on township code for those octave band limits is 55 decibels. That's the standard that would be accepted. So just to be clear, we will meet all of the requirements of the township code for compliant operational, which is kind of normal operations while equipment is running. We will be less than 50 decibels at the property line, so can't see through it. The campus drainage area, we got over a square mile in sort of natural conditions. So we're going to purpose cover that area, water will be able to charge, looking at this at the beginning, some additional landscaping that we added along Lofty Village, and we increased the number of plantings here to increase screening. We added plantings along the north side as well for gas and permanent fence. Particularly on the outside. We added additional plantings, guardrails, and through sidelines. We also had that was not planned. That was actually a good segue. We brought sideline diagrams as part of the presentation so that folks can see, you'll be able to tell from the individual properties what you would be able to see on top of that side. So, and includes landscaping, includes the topography, so we show where they're going to have where folks' properties sit and where our investors sit. Try to incorporate them in the presentation and show very well about poster boards and the great folks want to take a look. We'll also leave it online for folks to examine if they want after the meeting. I'll be touching on power. Again, another subject that we received a lot of comments and questions on throughout Commonwealth. I mentioned this on the first time as well. In partnership with PPL, we did extensive technical and reliability studies to see and operate safely and any required transmission upgrades or identified projects. AWS Sunbelt transmission upgrades required to serve campus. So all of those costs are borne by us as a customer of PPL. We have to conform also to PPL's large load tariff. That is effective on July 1st. There's a lot of parts in that tariff when it's contributions to native construction, industrial fancy infrastructure associated with our Campus buildings are part of all of our maintenance code, just like any other development. So there are enforcement mechanisms in that code. We have to maintain those buildings again, if you decided to not use them. We've got history with the Commonwealth, done some recastle. We've repurposed existing industrial buildings through our logistics team. So all this is saying that we plan to operate this facility for the foreseeable future. And if for whatever reason we not, we would reuse those buildings and those buildings are not value. So we're not looking at acquiring an asset that also requires to maintain that. So those are the main points I wanted to hit on from the last meeting. And I would answer questions from commissioners, Casey,
All right, this one we're going to do is
thank you. I won't go over everything the plan changes that they talk about, some of the big plan commission, our review and time was since the last meeting. After the last meeting, we had been planning and engineering to discuss our comments on so they realized plans recently to us. Prior to that meeting, we've been able to talk about changes that we were looking for. In the meantime, we visited the site several times, had the opportunity to meet with the contractor. We got to look at how safety could work with this thing in construction, what was going to be involved, we both expressed our concerns, and what we would look at as it was being constructed. Some of the updates in this plan revision answer a lot of our questions by submitting information we didn't have copies of previously. For example, and highway occupancy permit and reline the law from road. That was important to understand the project plans. They also submitted a rock stabilization plan, which softens the slope behind the buildings. That was one of the comments that we shared with the planning commission. Also included in that submission was the mine stabilization routing plan, which kind of helped us understand where this building would be constructed and more what the stormwater management bases to avoid conflicts and potential openings. The back conservation unit is important so you can see what happens, how it's not going to be disturbed and what is above it. And then finally, the general plan, the permit for energy permits as well. Some of the comments we have mainly are drafting items. We did have a substantial amount of stormwater management calculation comments, which I believe will show up in DEP's PCS and post-construction stormwater management review as part of the some of our biggest concerns are related to outside agency approvals, which we understand can't hold up the developer, but it's important to make sure those things are moving forward. The plan, sewer plan model, which I know we'll talk about, as well as the PCS permit update, general permit. Looks like the HOP is in place, so that's covered. So with that, that's all the comments we have. Like I said, we've been engaged with the design team, so they're sort of hear all our comments as we go through the process. So if there's any questions from happy to answer them.
now just verification.
Hi, yes, since the last submission, they have definitely get that approval from the DEP, they need a protocol permit that would allow for construction of the facilities.
If I may, I just want to respond specifically to the comment about that 5% HRD is involved by HRD was the original engineer for the prior development and the state development. So what we also did was they have submitted the component our understanding is that that's actually reviewed by the boards. We had sent it, or sorry, we had sent it to some of the agencies and we're getting feedback back that it's not done.
I don't think that's true because PTA has not signed any documents for that component free. That was not, so I'm pretty sure it has not been submitted. When we submitted that from all the numbers that we filled in, but we haven't actually seen that component free as a final package signed off on it, and then it hasn't yet been submitted to the
Well, we'll follow the HRG and kind of picking up the details from the document now, but I know there's been back and forth on it. It certainly works. It's not, but it hasn't started.
It's certainly works.
Right.
I'm just saying it has not officially been submitted as.
What's that side of the timeline? Or maybe that part of it, as far as the agreement?
Apologies, Mr. Chairman, I did have a question.
I said the agreement that Casey was asking about as far as the water usage for the timeline, you're saying you're talking about, the timeline when you expect that to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an excellent question. The process has been, otherwise, that tap fee agreement, that tap fee agreement has been executed by that party. KTMA has sent an invoice for the refundable deposit under that. It's a $200,000 deposit. AWS is in the process of doing that, funding that $200,000, and a water service agreement should be in place by no later than September 15th. The documentation is been executed in place. And if I may further elaborate, that is in negotiation now, not by the engineers, but by the engineers.
Any more comments?
For purposes of the record, the township engineer, Mr. Morzaki from KCE, you were making reference to comment letters and reviews. Would I be correct that you have submitted for the commission's consideration something entitled Planning Commission Review Number 2, dated August 18th of 2026, and a second document entitled Technical Review Memo Number 2, again dated August 18th, 2026. I believe copies of these have been forwarded to the Amazon Engineering Group.
That's correct. That's correct, Mr. Solicitor.
So what I would like to do then, for purposes for the record, if we could mark as hearing exhibit number 4, what's titled Planning Commission Review Number 2, and as exhibit number 5, Technical Review Memo Number 2, dated August 18th of 2026. And moving to KTMA and NTEC. believe there was reference to a comment letter and review. Am I correct that that's a letter dated August 18th addressed to the Kline Township Municipal Authority, the Kline Township Supervisors, and the Kline Township Planning Commission that consists of 8 pages? Is this the report that's being referred to? Then I would ask that that be marked as exhibit number 6. And I note on page 3, under water system general comments, there's a reference as to fire protection design for either side or both provide the commission with a further explanation or clarification as to what that is.
Yeah, I'll clarify. They did submit additional information on these plans that showed additional fire storage tanks and the pump house. You saw that schematically, you don't necessarily know all the details. They did indicate that they were going to coordinate with the local fire company for storage needs. And I'll let them provide a little bit more details on that.
Sure, so, the plans we provided, I say, it's not a bit of detail, but, please ask for additional information, which will be happy to provide, where we're with the, fire protection engineer on the project, who has the park building designer, a little bit behind the site designer, so, our intent would be to provide all that detail, and as part of the follow-up to the submissions, as well as part of the building, that's what we submitted. I know there were some questions last time, in general, about 150,000 gallons per day that has been requested as part of the agreement relates to fire versus professional water. The intent is to not exceed 150,000 gallons per day, that they would be pulling that water in underneath that volume, filling the tanks, fire tanks first, and then the industrial water. And at that point, if we reuse the water, pulling in less than 150,000 gallons per day moving forward, that's how the fire so it's 2 completely separate systems, and PCA is still looking for information on water building. Again, that's actually just as of today, I would say it's in a position where we can provide that, and we're just waiting for the building team to catch up to the systems and overall design. That information is happy to provide.
When I go to the bottom of page 3, where it talks about the sanitary sewer system, I know there was some back and forth on this already, but just so the planning commission gets a better understanding, if the sewer planning module is yet to be reviewed and signed off by ATMA and will be submitted to DEP, could somebody give us, the commission, a reasonable estimate of time what that review process will entail? I believe there's an initial window of a 30-day review period. Will the commission and the township see something in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Will you give us a guess?
So, again, with regard to the submission, I actually some of the questions have already been submitted, so my guess would be within the next few weeks it will be submitted to the township or to PCA, and that's been submitted already. As far as the DEP process, once those component agrees are all signed off on, HRG will then submit that information to DEP. In initial discussions with DEP, we understand that they would have approximately 60-day review process, so we think it's possible that that process will be completed before the end of the second year, as early as we see but that process is real.
Mr. Solicitor, that would be appropriate, because that's a third party, that would be appropriate to make a recommendation of additions to the township for moving forward
That's the fire protection designer, that's, of course, I can't give you the details on it as a civil engineer, but the intent is to figure out, how much, normal fire, fire in a certain period of time. They basically provide, I believe, 10+1 redundancy on that, and then, I believe it's actually an extra tank on top of that, just in case there's some resiliency, built on top of resiliency, so that at no time would we be relying on the PTA system, to be supplying the flow, to be the fire protection management, to be entirely outside.
Could that information, pass to our direction, to the council look at?
Yes, yes.
I think we agree with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second thing, I had a question about, was an estimate before. Pardon me, it's an answer to that. As far as the generator, probably a whole lot of details about how big they are, how much they are. I know you said that the test conditions will be less than 50 decibels. Test conditions are not favor under load, I think it's just been higher simply. Under load is a whole lot of it. Do you happen to have any information about how much noise the generator makes? Under 80% load.
Sorry, I was having trouble here. Would you be able to just repeat the last sentence or the last part of that question?
Sure. One of the big concerns that all of us have is how much noise these generators will make. So one of our questions is, you said it's 50 decibels to the border when these things are high load when they're cycled, which is not more than that. Maybe a whole lot more noise under the load. So most generators you for your house, they are, the information that they're giving you is under 80% load. So for those of us who aren't engineers, we just have that knowledge. How noisy are one of these generators at 80% load?
Are you asking how noisy the generator would be during an emergency, not testing, correct? We did submit a sound study or an executive summary of the sound study and had to pull that up for the exact I just want to make sure I'm getting the right answer so I can speak after her. So what we've modeled so far, again, it's only based on our modeling results, but they would be at 60 decibels or under when they're running at full capacity, and the model exceedance that they are showing is, so when we do sound study, we model at various locations. During an emergency, the exceedance is actually here, so that the noisiest emergency generator noise is actually highway now.
So the other question that was asked about the generators, I know we spoke about the agreement we had with the electric company. We spoke about it before, about the agreement with the electric company. They were here the last one. We spoke about you guys as a 10-year agreement with them. But we all hear about how curtailing during the hot summer months. I guess you guys need to, are you going to be influenced by if there was a container, then you would have to heat the container, you would have to power it. My question is, are you going to power it out, or are you going to use it for the generator to offset the difference in electricity to keep running?
So I would say it would depend on the event and the expected duration. If it was a certain events, we will be using the generators to keep the facility running. I would say that as part of our project, I referred to was we are, in order to reduce the likelihood of those curtailment events, we are funding infrastructure upgrades on certain campuses before we pay by Amazon. But there are certain curtailment events where we would use the generators, but it's hard to say if we would use it all the time, but it depends on the type of curtailment event and how long we access it.
You talk about the noise study. Was there any vibration study also done?
So we model, we model sound. There hasn't been any reliable evidence that data centers create noticeable vibration, especially at these distances. So we do not model vibration as part of our modeling. We do model pixels.
The vibration study, does that count the transformers and the substation also?
Our sound study, so I just wanted to make sure I was clear, we do not do vibration studies, we do sound studies, and the sound study does include noise from, model noise from the substation to the transformers.
And you talk about the blasting schedule and everything. If there is any damage that occurs to someone's home, will the homeowner's insurance be liable, or will we pay for all the damage? AWS.
I can't speak to what someone's homeowner's insurance may or may not cover, but we were committed to notifying residents ahead of time. We have to obtain a past activity permit from DEP, and we'll engage all the appropriate safety measures, but
It's a DEP permit, so if that goes with the, then it should be qualified for DEP, and DEP will be notice of violation. And that will be processed in DEP's license. That could include some.
Back to the sanitary sewer, the engineer, the 15,000 gallons, that's going to go back to the Township sewer plant. Is that, taking that much capacity there, or is there room left at the plant for additional sanitary sewer?
I can say that KTMA has an intermunicipal agreement with that new borough that is within the capacity that KTMA has reserved is higher than all that's. So I would say we're close to that capacity.
The reason that is there's a septic slash sand located on the property off the road that is not helping septic system. Is that going away or is that staying?
That's the only way it's part of the 15,000 gallons per day. So part of that includes, say, 2,400 gallons per day for the open, and then the rest of it is for the pretty big US water.
In the performance standards, almost in this can, it says that there should be no major change to the topography of any parcel. Does that concrete that they're going to take out of the mountain, is that considered a major change of the topography?
What comment is that?
707 X10 performance standards.
I think with the land development plan, all the grading that's occurring on the site is in planning with the land development plan. I didn't study that section, but I didn't hear anything here about the grading that is in excess of that.
It's in the same place with the noise and vibration.
Look at that.
It's all in the same section.
I'll have to look further into that.
Read that.
I'll just say that it's worth noting that the grading that we're proposing for this project is actually less grading than we're proposing as part of the reviews for asphalt. So while we are doing excavation and fill, the last thing that I propose is as part of the previously approved warehousing, and the extent of that on our site is substantially less than what was previously approved.
Well, did you ever contact Sun Oil on the pipeline? And discuss with them the blasting procedures and if there would be an impact to their line?
We have reached out to the oil company for the pipeline, and it's similar protocol that we proposed. We haven't made any adjustments yet, but that's still a plan, so before we actually work. Recently, to make sure that they're in line with what we're doing. But as I just stated, what we're doing is less consistent, less close to that gas line, and what was the previous for the warehouse.
And I think I said at the last meeting, your engineers talked to the deep mining and so engineers over the last with subsidence occurring. Like that the last meeting, was anybody discuss with anybody?
There was no discussion about the mining facilities. I mean, there's a robust ground program proposed, we're just supporting mines, all of the zone that are the questions or proposed buildings. That's all part of the future of the necessary.
I was down at Township building today, and there's two giant boxes loaded with land and stuff. Was that for the new people? The guardian land, mindset plans, sound plans. There's two giant plans in there. Is that from the exhibits that was submitted?
It's very possible, we did send, hard copies in, like what the township is, wherever it's going to be, it's not exactly anything else.
Real quick, back to the last thing. At one of our meetings, whether it was a business meeting for the township or here, it was brought up to have your blasting company, to be promoted for them to visit all the residents, videotape their properties before blasting. If you brought up here, if it be possible to have your blasting company, which I'm sure they would, so we just have to make liabilities, just to have you videotape all the properties that have been sold.
We will accept that as a condition.
That was just good sense. The drawing, the mindset, the vision plans, I didn't get a chance to review it, but I was on an hour ago. Your drawing plan, is that, are you only drawing under buildings and foundation, or are you reinforcing, or are you just plugging lines?
I'll say it's either of those. One, there's no buildings proposed on top of any lines, so all the buildings are located so that they can road provide lines. Where we're grouting is where we have fill or where there's stormwater management bases to prevent sediment over air evaporation in the long term. And it's not grouting solid, it's actually using a series of interstitial piers to basically support the roof of the line, but the way water moves within the line is not going to change itself. It will be able to move around the ground lines as they are. It's been studied and it's also been discussed closely with the DEP, mining issue, as well as the conservation district. Continuing those discussions with the conservation district review of our law.
You planning on reducing the footprint by 100,000 square feet? If I read this right. You're going from 2.1 million to just over 2 million square feet? The footprint?
Picking up with the ancillary buildings that are a little bit smaller just as they evolve, so that's their efforts.
But it's not really configuring the current buildings that's easily.
Correct.
Yes. And that doesn't move building K, which reduction in size.
That includes building, and that was the biggest reduction, yes. That was basically the extent of a larger community is smaller, so kind of equipment needs to be a little bit smaller, so the building gets smaller.
And then there was something on, there's no reconfiguring the substation, just adding more buffer screening to it, correct? No planning?
Correct, the substation is as it was last time.
AWS, do you have any further comments that you'd like to after the question? If you discuss anything in addition or clarify anything?
I think at this time, we have one administrative matter, we have 3 presentations that we would like to move to the presentations to provide, June 30th, to provide us with those. So we will not go to the last 1, 2, 3. Really, Mark, the exhibits 1, AWS 1, 2, and 3, and then the PowerPoint presentations, can't be the comments.
have some other for the event, for the board. What I believe is double pay, so it's June 30th, 2026. We can mark that as exhibit 7. The packet that stated July 1st, 2026. We mark that as exhibit number 8. And the packet that has the slide for today, the one that is exhibit number 9, stated August 18, 2026. If there's nothing further for AWS, anything from Township Engineer, Township UCC, KTMA Engineer, for purposes of questions, clarifications, anything additional that you'd like the commission to consider?
Just a bit of question for the excessive excavation. That's not a provision, it's a permitting process that we have through the planning commission and the county for the township. So the planning commission and the commission engineer will review that and it is permitted to do these programs. No approval of that has happened, and approval can't happen until you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Anything else?
You said something about the planning commission, or the planning commission review those plans?
I think the planning commission and its delegated engineer review those plans.
The planning commission didn't review those plans.
Correct. The plans that were submitted for the application were reviewed by the planning and engineer. No approval on that, on that excavation happened without it. The excavation on that can't happen without the approval, which was reviewed by.
I misunderstood, I think you said you reviewed the plan.
Sorry.
Anything else from the planning commission?
Okay, so at this point, we will answer the public questions. Just keep in mind that as part of tonight's process, it's open to Kline Township residents of Kline Township if you want property. We want to make sure that everyone here that is in that area gets to speak. Everyone else has decided to break up here and take time away from everyone else. It's just not fair to everyone else. Let's try to go through this. Everyone should have enough time to ask your questions. And if you want to ask your questions to us, you can direct them to the Amazon or to the engineers or whoever you have answered them. If not, you just want to talk about some of question. We may or may not have that. May or may not have the answer. But it will show just as good. So if you please start to step up when you get up here. We need your name and where you live, and please speak clearly so then it's not a group and really now. Just give you one notice.
Name is Ron Sage, 626 Spring Run Terrace, Macleod.
The first question is, did we get new plans since the last time we had them? No. Did you submit new plans from the last time?
We submitted revised plans to address the comments we were making, as well as from
Are they in the township for people to review?
Yes, there should be a copy of the township building. They were sent to the township building and also sent to the township building.
When did you send it?
They were sent, I don't know exactly if they were sent 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Because there was nothing posted that we had there. And I looking at you guys, you didn't know it. All right, the other question is, on your plans that you had there, you had 1 inch equals 12 feet. All right? And on that house property, from your blueprints, when you measured it, it should have been 4,800 feet from the corner of that house to your property line. I walked it with a roll to count it, and their property was 200 feet. You were right at the your thing is right on the other side of the fence. Property.
I can't speak to a specific plan you're providing, but the dimension plan is shared, an exhibit today, as well as the exhibits we provided over here. Also, the accurate dimensions were not 200 feet from the property line. That answer you that.
The other question I have is, I don't understand the Magnus Planning Commission, and there's no plans here. Those plans that are at the township building should have been here for people to review, even if they're just standing as we're talking. I just don't understand that. To your question, with PJ&M, they're part of PJ&M. The 2nd and the 3rd of this of July, those generators we ran for 15 hours because we were down for 15 hours. That doesn't count the time that if you bring your power right back up, and I know you're going to bring your power right back up, because if you do it, you're going to get whacked 3 times the amount that you're paying for electricity. This PJ&M called for demand response on the 2nd and 3rd, and they were both for 12 hours. So those generators, all 15 or 115 of them, would have been running full blast for 12 hours, plus the time for you to reboot. What you're saying, 9 buildings. When you showed your blueprint, where are you going with the building that you're not counting there, which is JD Truck that was purchased? You're saying that you have 9 buildings, but there's actually 10. Is that building being torn down? But on the blueprint, it shows, on your plans, it still shows that that building is still there. So that would consist of not 9, 10 buildings. That's the building, in case you're not familiar, it's right off Lofty Road. The building that's still there.
That building will be removed as part of the project. That's not part of the data center.
Well, you didn't take it off of that diagram that was showed.
It's not included in all the tables and calculations. As part of revised plans, it's still showing, we haven't taken it down, but it's the intent is for it to be removed.
The other question is, you said that you're putting in a bigger fire tank, but you also said that water is the same water that you use to cool the toilet. Is that correct or not?
That's not correct. I said there's a certain amount of water that's being brought into the site. That's supposed to be one service off of the new main that's being constructed. That main's being brought into the site is segregated in 3 different systems on site: fire, the cooling water, and then the domestic water for any other use. Those will all be separate once they're on site. So that fire tank is going to be connected to the on-site fire system only, and not connected back to the ATV system. Will be on the other side of the back of the river.
Do you have that in your plans for the water lines, or that wouldn't be in this?
That's one of our questions is, we saw that the water main is coming into the site and it goes up to what's called Building K. And then from Building K, there's 3 systems that are leaving that building. The domestic system, the fire protection system, and the industrial water system. So our main concern as KPNA is that they should proper factor prevention. So we're asking for those additional details.
And you have your schedule, and test those backflow preventers every year, correct? The backflow preventers that you have on your system will be inspected and tested every year?
I can't speak to the testing frequency on the state of that one.
We would request that happen.
I think it's a staple. But, and you said that shear wall, you designed that to not be as steep as it was originally? Is that correct?
That's correct. It's not a wall, we're laying back the slope, and then in addition to that, we're stabilizing it, with the,
Did you have a degree in landlord or?
well, yeah, it varies along the way, but all that information was provided in detail as we researched.
All right, I don't think we have anything else right now.
Okay, thank you. Tina Romanowski, Wall Street Haddock. Thank you for asking all of those questions, because those are some of the ones that were on my list. So just to confirm, nobody on the planning commission and nobody from zoning had a chance to review the revised plans before tonight's meeting. Is that correct? Okay. Mr. Wilhelm, Mr. Supervisor, I would like to add into evidence exhibit number 10, chapter 3, from the Right to Know Law. Section 302 that states, a local agency shall provide public records in accordance with and may not deny a requester access to public record due to the intended use of public record by the requester unless provided by law. Nobody making those decisions today, and nobody in the audience had an opportunity to review those plans before today. This meeting should not even be happening. Number one. Who did the sound study, sir? I didn't catch your company's name.
The name of the consultant is Randall, and that sound study was provided as part of the submission.
And who paid for that sound study? Is that Amazon or is that a third party?
We pay for the sound study and we do modeling. We have to comply with it.
Thank you. The drainage basin that you talked about in Lofty, the Lofty drainage basin, is that covered under a DEP permit?
In terms of the construction activities that occur within that small area, yes, that would eventually be covered under.
It will eventually be, so it's currently not. Can you provide me with that permit number that you submitted?
That's the biggest permit that's under review. I don't have a permit number in front of me, but that's,
It's on your website, so is it -A1 or -A2? Is it the major or minor modification?
the major modification.
The major, so it would be -1. Okay, thank you. Is there a permit in place for rock blasting as well?
No, as I mentioned during the presentation, we're required to obtain a blasting activity permit from DEP. That permit is not in place today.
Okay, so the permit has not been submitted yet for that, correct? Okay, thank you. The fire storage tanks, have any of that been inspected by the fire company yet, Mr. Leschko? I don't know if you can answer that question. So you haven't looked at any of their plans or anything? Okay.
There was the additional comments from the last meeting as to asking total size of the tanks and fire flow of the pump, which is what we're still waiting on. So we have requested that information, but it may be in the new plans, but I am not aware of that.
That's what I needed to know. And one more final question. With regards to the rock blasting that's happening, we are well aware of Amazon purchasing the land and have PAX 1 as another area. And it's also not just Amazon, there's other data center companies out there. We are well aware of all of the foundation issues that they are happening, and they are more than 600 feet from the property line. They are also submitting to DEP requests for cracked foundations. We are way closer than 800 feet from the property line. My the residents and be a good neighbor.
So, another thing to be clear, we have not purchased property in Pax One.
You're in Salem Township area though too, right?
We're in Salem Township.
Right, but you're not Pax One.
Pax One is another area, so I want to make that clear. All of our blasting activity will be required to comply with the regulations. As part of that permit, we're required to comply with all the rules and regulations set forth by DEP.
Okay, and that's the one we haven't done yet, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
That's in that permit.
Okay, and then just one final thought. A plan really isn't a plan. We all plan to win the lotto every time we go play, but here we are, not able to have enough cash to buy you out. When you come to a presentation for our planning commission, our zoning, our fire chief, our residents, please make sure you come with all of the information so we can make a better educated decision. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zachary Shannon, 6 Center Avenue, Magnolia Heights. Going back to the sound study, the acoustic modeling, do you know, or is it part of the plans, what the assumptions are for that modeling? Does it model all of the necessary generators that would need to be running at full or 80% load during full normal operations? Say all of the power from PP&L is not coming in and we're relying solely on generator power. Did it model the sound in, say, that scenario, in like the worst case scenario, we'll call it?
Yeah, so there's 3 questions there. So there's 3 scenarios that we evaluate. Scenario 1 is normal operations, which is when we're going. Scenario 2 is cooling operations plus generator testing. Scenario 3 is emergency generators running. We ran all of those scenarios.
Okay, thank you. And so in that third scenario with the emergency generators running, is that under the assumption that there's no external power coming in and they're running at whatever full capacity might be, say all 115 generators running at whatever the max rate would need to be? Thank you.
in St. George, 261 Silverbrook Road, Kline Township. A 9-building AI complex naturally has a high decibel level. What specific acoustic planning is Amazon installing to support 55 decibels to minimize community disruption? And also, are you planning to use closed-loop cooling systems instead of cooling fans?
So we do use fans for cooling. It is a closed-loop system in terms of water use. I can't speak to the exact acoustical equipment specifications, but we will and we must meet the township's noise ordinance, which requires us to be below 55 decibels.
Okay, so Amazon has put in 100 data centers across the United States and 900 globally. Please explain to me why you cannot tell me what the system is that will keep us under 55 decibels. Are you not the subject matter experts?
We as a company are, but there are dozens, if not hundreds, of folks behind me and throughout the company that are responsible for engineering and other disciplines, and they don't all come to these meetings, but I can assure you that we are comply with the township's ordinance, and we will comply with that ordinance. We will be under 55 decibels. I can't speak to the exact specifications. I'm not an acoustic engineer. I'm not an expert in that field. I can assure you that there are plenty of experts internally that make sure that we comply with those ordinances, and in fact, seek them throughout, not only in this township, but throughout the United States.
Okay, I understand, and I want you to know I'm not here to browbeat. But will you just please get the message to Amazon? We just want to know. We want to understand. AI is very important, but we need to understand from a local level. The next question I have is, will Amazon be purchasing any water? I work for a company that purchases water every day. And if we don't have enough, we take it upon ourselves. Will you be purchasing any water if you don't have enough?
So as part of this development, we will be entering into a water service agreement with KTMA that will allow us a maximum of 115,000 gallons per day that we purchase. So we have a tapping fee agreement that we pay fees for, and then we also have a meter connection that we have to pay for our water use and second maintenance.
Okay, understood, but you're purchasing from my source. So let me just say this, okay? Is it true that you're not going to be drilling for water?
Correct, we're not drilling for wells here.
Okay, so you won't be drilling for water. So am I correct in saying, and I'm going to pose this question to you, that Kline Township Municipal Water Authority gets its water primarily from deep groundwater wells, including major sources on Spring Mountain, well number 5, and in Caleres, well number 6. Is that true? Is that what it is? Okay, thank you. So, how is it that my home is going to be supplied the water I need if Amazon requires such an enormous amount of water on a daily basis? And I believe my question is posed to you. Will there be enough for all of us?
Yes, we are still within our permitted SRBC docket amount. That amount is 1.2 million gallons, 1.3 million gallons per day. Our average usage right now is between 500 and 600,000 gallons per day. So we will still be within our allotted SRBC docket.
Okay, so we still have a surplus then.
We'll still have a surplus.
And if Amazon exceeds what they need, what then?
Well, we can limit them to what the agreement amount is. There's a meter, just like there's a meter on your house, there will be a meter at the gateway, for lack of a better term, where their entrance is. We will have meters, and it will be metered on a daily basis.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt that. I wanted to add, the 100,000 gallons per day for cooling is not what we are using every day. That's the maximum that we are allowed to use should we need to use it. It's, obviously during July and August, in the summer months when it's warmer, we will be using water for cooling. But for most of the year, between 94 to 96% of the year, we're just drawing in outside air for cooling. So we're not using the water for cooling for most of the year.
The one concern that I have is for the environment. Now, I'm not a green person, but I do believe in clean air. And I know that you guys have the backup generators that emit things that are not healthy for the environment. Have you considered finding ways to stop any pollution into the air? Is there something that's in process with Amazon to protect the environment?
Sure. So I'll say a couple things. One is, as a company, we're committed to reducing pollution as much much as possible. The other piece is we only deploy tier 4 rated generators. That's the highest EPA standard. We're not required to do that, but that's something that we have chosen to do as a company throughout the United States. We deploy those tier 4 rated generators.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Gelly, and I'm on Tamako Street. As a firefighter, volunteer firefighter for the last 17 years of my life, there's things I do know in this area. Hydrants are far few in between. So if we are in a really bad drought, can we keep up with a major wildfire, like you can see in the last couple of years around the country?
Wildfires, is that the question?
Yeah, can we keep up? If we're in a severe drought, with the amount of hydrants that are not accessible, or the amount of water that we have to get to provide with the fire out, and we do so. In other words, Kansas wants to take a dish of 30,000 a day, dish of water. Oh, isn't that? You want to take how much of that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat
How
that?
much water do you want to take a day?
So our domestic use is 15,000 gallons per day. 100,000 is our maximum allowed for industrial, but like I was mentioning before, we would use that very sparingly. We're not using that every day. That's just the maximum that we're allowed.
So if we're in a major drought, do we have the resources to protect the community with this being in place?
I would say you have the resources that are in your water storage tanks. Once that runs out, you'd be limited to the wells we produce. Does that answer your question? I'm trying to I want to answer your questions, but I'm not necessarily.
We've been seeing lakes and stuff lately around the country drying up. Drought, not raining, fires in California. In this area, there's not too many hydrants, but places like Eagle Rock that's fine, cycling, vacation. We have to find water sources. If we're in a drought and they're taking water from our resources, and we keep up with a major hazard happen.
I'd like to take a shot at answering your question. I'm the chairman of the authority.
I'm not going to speak in, first I'm speaking in a group full of people, so I'm not nervous or very.
So that's fine. I'm repeating it, but we're permitted to draw 1.3 million gallons a day. We're currently drawing 500,000 gallons a day, which means we have a lot of capacity. Adding 100,000 gallons to that would put us at 600,000 gallons a day, which means we still have another 600,000 gallons that we could pump within our limits. As far as the drought, I've been with the authority for over 10 years. We monitor our wells. I can actually pull them up on my cell phone and show you our well levels. On years where DEP has put in place water restrictions because of rain in our area and have been put in, I have not seen any reduction in our wells. We're very fortunate in the aquifer that we have. That 1.3 million has been with our authority since it's been formed 25 years ago. We've never asked for an increase because we haven't needed one. But if this area expanded, we could also ask for an increase and actually pump more water. I do honestly believe our aquifer could withstand it. Now, we do see our lakes, the number 8, we go out there, the water leaving the lake, that surface water which is coming out of the springs on a mountain, that absolutely does dry up. We need to remember, the lake behind our office and number 8 is sitting on top of our aquifer. If there's water in those lakes, there's water under the ground. I don't know if that helps your question or makes you feel better.
Part of it. Second question, can the citizens here expect a rate increase to our water supply?
Tina Romanowski, Wall Street Iowa. This is just to go back on what St. George had asked earlier. You had said that the decibel level for your buildings are less than 50 decibels, correct? Less than 55 decibels, is that correct?
Correct. So the township's code is 55 decibels. We will meet that and exceed it will be under 50 decibels during normal operation.
Okay, and that's for just the buildings, correct?
That's for the entire campus. We model the buildings, we also model the substation.
And what about when the generators kick online? What is their decibels rated at?
They will be at 55 or under. The maximum is 60 along the Interstate 81 route.
Okay, so that's outside of what our SALDO says.
Correct, and we have asked for an exception for that. We've asked for that on June 30th and July 1st. We also repeat that.
Okay, and that's when one generator kicks online. What happens when 117 kick online? What's the decibel going to be then?
The modeling is for all of the generators, not just one.
Your modeling says that 117 generators are going to still be at 60 decibels?
So again, I'm not an acoustic engineer, but it's not, sound is additive. So if we add every generator together, we are not getting above that 60 decibel level is what we modeled for emergency generators.
And how many emergency generators are part of that model? 117? Okay. And when it comes to the bat conservation area, what are those decibels going to do to the echolocation of the bats? Have you talked to the conservation district about that?
We were in communication with DEP as part of the bat conservation district. I can't speak to echolocation effects. That's going to be way outside my area.
Okay. And what about the decibels of the drilling equipment? Is that going to be under the 55 decibels?
This is for operations, not construction.
Okay. So zoning, that would be up to you to make sure that whatever construction equipment they bring on for their twice-a-day operations for drilling, that's going to be under the 55 decibels, correct? And if that does not happen, you will be there to fine them the $500 per incident every time it happens. So when all the residents call, we'll expect a response. Thank you, I appreciate that. That's very good. And then when it comes to the water withdrawal, you said domestic use, so flushing toilets, washing hands, that sort of thing was 15,000 gallons a day?
Correct, that is our permitted withdrawal.
Okay, I'm not a mathematician, but I did ask AI to generate some numbers for me, and 9 buildings with 100 workers each, 900 workers, which is far more than your city will have there, only draws 7,500 gallons a day. Where's the second half of your water coming from?
The 15,000 gallons is our permitted withdrawal. I can look at our exact calculations based on employee counts, but I don't have this in front of me. Also, without reading the assumptions from the AI model that you consulted, I wouldn't be able to.
Okay, so basically you're asking for more than what you need.
Sorry?
You're asking for more water than you actually need.
Not necessarily. We've modeled it according to our water use at buildings and facilities that we operate. It's important for us to ask for the waters we need and not just rely on AI models. Like we operate in facilities throughout the United States. We know the amount of water we need, and that's what we ask for.
Thank you. Now my final question comes back to the water authority, because Mr. DeValco had mentioned like expansion of growth. So we see that happening in Hazelton. You see all of the land they're clearing, they're advertising homes for sale on certain lots, that sort of thing. What happens if Amazon now needs to expand the housing that's available in Kline Township for all of their workers that are going to be coming to do their data center? Do we have enough water for more homes, more neighborhoods, plus the data center?
There's some leftover capacity, yes. But whatever they use would take away from residential. It's a finite resource.
Correct.
So when people come in to request the resource, we are the only water authority in the area.
Right.
So it's the first come, first served.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Take the
Thank you, that's all I need.
One of the things is we can't see the future, and we know this area is growing. They're not the only player in the neighborhood, and it is a concern of the authority what the future is here. And it's one of the, I guess, sticking points we keep going back. You know, and I'll put it in everybody's head. An Act 537 plan tells municipal authorities what the future is, what development could be coming and what will be coming in the next 20 years. These are the things we need to push all of our community leaders towards to update the 537 plans. So the municipal authorities like ATMA or the sewer authorities in ACU or ABM can make the decisions they need to make correctly.
Thank you. And it was an Act
537.
Mr. Chairman of the Planning Commission, are you aware of any Act 537s happening in Kline Township for further expansion of neighborhoods and buildings?
And Act 5, maybe I can pass it there.
Sure.
An Act 537 is a sewer facilities planning that you go through with DEP. So it looks at your water usage and what the sanitary sewer needs are going to be in your community for the next 20 years.
Right, but if there's something that is being planned in the future, the Planning Commission should be aware of it, because they would have to review it, and then that would come back to you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are you aware of any future planning? 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Sorry?
We can only review the plans that are proposed. Just like you said, we cannot tell the future, we have no idea what's going to happen. The only time that we come into play is when there's actual plans put forward that there is something going to happen. I don't know any others than the ones that we're looking at right now, which is this one.
Thank you.
One question. Not going to your claim. I'm sorry. Andrew, on that, 1611. Going back to earlier this year, the process of tender treatment. I'm sorry. Pulling up this one first. Going back to earlier this year, when we were in the process of cutting the trees. I'm standing in the kitchen, and I could hear the truck rollers coming up and cutting the trees. Also, the processing of the trees. I'm sorry. Earlier in the year, January, February, March, was having trees cut down. I could hear truck rollers and trees being cut down from my kitchen. The level was worse. That's all I said.
Let's show this again. Can we experience rolling blackouts? Can be experienced or at risk of rolling blackouts. I'm asking anybody that can answer. I don't know how much power it's going to take to run this building. I do know I need the lights on in my house. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that meeting, and I was surprised when I saw it on Facebook. That's why I was asking now, because I wasn't there for that. Appreciate it. What other environmental risks can there be with putting this there? I know that data centers are the giant memory banks, CPUs.
not sure what the question is. You're asking what the effect is on wildlife if I have computers. Again, outside my area of expertise, but I would say that similar to other residential or industrial retail uses, there's computers there as well, so I'm assuming similar effects. But again, that is not my area of expertise.
I asked that because I was looking at the maps and I noticed that that's a lot of land. So not only are we taking away from ourselves, but we're taking away from creatures that's been there long before us. And will always be there. Not only do we owe this environment to ourselves, but we owe it to them. We don't need something to boost our Netflix. We don't. All this is more time away from family. We don't need it. We don't want it. There is a town here that do want it. Go there.
Jackie Joyce, 254 Haddock Road. So I just looked up what is the sound level of 110 Tier 4 diesel generators, and it came back 90 to 98 dBAs. So what would that, how would that affect the creatures in the protected land if that's the closest proximity? Is that part of the environmental study? Does anybody know? Does anybody know if that's part of the environmental study?
Jill will just say that it's not part of the environmental study as part of this application, but as part of the application for the project, we are required to go through with Fish and Wildlife, which is the one that are protecting the bats and the area where the bat conservation is. They have not presented any concerns about the implications of that at this time. If they did, we would have to address it. We'll be part of that.
Okay, and how far is the closest house to those generators?
The closest home to a data center is 735 feet.
To the generators?
To the data center. Yes. It's about the same.
So now we're looking at about 68 to 70 dBAs for the houses when that's running full, according to AI.
Just something to keep in mind when you're pulling things off the internet. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Two is that it doesn't include the acoustical enclosures that AWS implements. So you might be looking at an average data center. There are, it's just like cars. There's starter cars, and then there's all the way up to the Ferraris. And you make an investment in those acoustical enclosures in order to get to those lower decibels.
Okay, so you're saying yours are enclosed, and then we're going to have the natural barrier, so we can expect it to be less.
We have acoustical enclosures, we have mufflers, and more importantly, we have appropriate and seated distances from homes. So that 735 feet is a above average distance from a home in terms of
You may think so, but that's my home. I don't think so. In requesting the ability to exceed the noise ordinance, what would be the limit? The noisiest that you would approve? Or are you asking for? Is it unlimited? Is there a cap?
We have not asked for a specific number. We have asked to exceed the ordinance for C generator use, not for testing, but for C generator use. We have not requested a specific number. No, the planning commission could impose that as a condition if they so chose.
Would the planning commission have that as a condition? Who am I asking that to? Could we ask? I mean, I don't want you to approve them to go over at all, but if you did, could you have a limit not to exceed?
That's part of the zoning variance process that we don't get involved with. Zoning, they have to petition the zoning for variance for that ordinance, and then they'll meet in a public meeting like this to discuss what they want, and then all the residents that are affected by that, within 100.
If the answer is, as a follow-up to the question about whether or not there would be an exception under the township's noise ordinance, that is not under the zoning ordinance. That's a separate ordinance, and there are specific requirements in that ordinance, and it's enforceable by the board of supervisors. So that's not something that the planning commission will decide, and it's not something that will be referred to the zoning hearing board. If it gets to the point of under consideration by the board of supervisors, that's what will have to come to decision. I would imagine that the board of supervisors will take into account mostly what's been heard here, but they're certainly able to consider other things, and they will have to decide whether or not to grant an exception first off, and secondly, if they would agree to grant an exception, might there be a cap on it for purposes of if it should exceed. So that would be strictly within the wheelhouse of the board of supervisors.
Do you know the ordinance number by any chance? The ordinance number for the noise you have by any chance? Let me research it. Of course you don't. You don't? Okay, thank you.
We had, that's ordinance. Oh, 2020-08. Yes.
Zachary Chamberlain, Assistant Director. I believe last meeting, either the 30th or the 1st, there was a concern about clearance around at least one of the buildings as far as firefighting. I don't remember exactly what that was, but was that addressed at all in the revisions? I think I remember there was a question about clearance about getting fire trucks around at least one of the exterior buildings with maybe one of the generator enclosures providing obstruction with that.
I don't believe there was a question about clearance around generators. I believe there was a question about the height of the existing equipment to service the facility. Am I correct on that, Chief?
Okay, so our question was setback, but setback to the height of us being able to reach that. And that would be something that we were going to address once this is, because as we voiced, we did not have an apparatus that would reach that. And that was something that was in conversation. So to say that there was a full answer to that right now, no, because there's not a final plan to say I have a full answer.
Thank you.
I think it also bears repeating that same thing the chief asked about either technology in the buildings. That's something that we will encourage the planning commission, which is a recommendation that AWS will work with volunteer fire department to make sure that there is appropriate computer technology in the facility so that they can communicate to first responders if necessary.
St. George. I just want to ask a candid question. I understand what AI means globally, but can you please tell me, aside from employment opportunities, because we all know AI data centers are run automated, what benefit does this facility have for our community?
So I think you mentioned first, which was employment opportunities, which is significant. I would not gloss over that. So that's number one. And number two, the benefits of these facilities. These are services and things that we use as part of our everyday lives. I've seen even folks come up during this presentation referencing those resources, not only using AI, but also the everyday banking, healthcare, and entertainment options that we all sometimes take for granted. That computing power needs to be provided for and provide those services to the community and the nation at large.
But I already have that. So, what benefit is this in my community?
I would say, again, the employment opportunities, the tax revenue, the infrastructure upgrades that we're making, I certainly wouldn't take those lightly. But again, I think everyone has a different opinion on what the benefits might be. But I would say that the employment, tax revenue, and infrastructure upgrades are significant.
So you're saying that in terms of tax revenue, I know that data centers get a break for a certain number of years when they go into communities by and large. So once those tax breaks happen, and then they're up, and you start paying taxes, am I going to be paying less taxes? Is that what you're inferring?
The county assessor sets your tax rates, not Amazon, so I couldn't speak to how much taxes you're paying or will pay in the future. So I could not represent that, and I would not represent that. And anyone who does represent that as a developer or an entity that builds data centers probably should not be representing that.
Okay, thank you.
Does this governor's issue today have any effect on this project at all? Will you pass it up with Dennis?
So, as I understand it, the executive order came out a few hours ago, so I don't know if I have anything to add on what Governor Shapiro said. What I will say is that Amazon will commit to being a good neighbor in the communities where they go and operate. We'll continue to work with state and local leaders to invest responsibly and develop data centers using those forward-moving standards and to bring good sustainable jobs across the Commonwealth.
So it doesn't have any effect on it?
Again, the order was was released just a few hours ago, so I don't really have much to add on that. I can't say that.
I know I did bring up one question, it was on the 30th of the 1st, about are you doing wells on the property, test wells that you can test to make sure there's nothing going into the ground? And I believe you said you didn't have to do that, is that correct? You're not doing that?
That's correct. You're not doing any wells.
What? It just, God forbid, if there's a fire out there and they put all that water and all that water that is coming out of your building and goes into the ground. How do we know it's not contaminating somebody's well down the road or up the road or anything like that? Because you don't have intention or any intention on a facility to catch all the water that's coming out of the building if there's a fire, right?
So this is the same type of facility as any other industrial facility requires the DEP permits for stormwater discharges, so that's what we're following. There's nothing specifically in our fire suppression system on this project that would be different than any other industrial sites, warehouse sites, et cetera. There's just an operational permit that we maintain, which would include some visual monitoring, but there's just not a testable permit.
Okay, I believe DEP made cogeneration going in all over the place, and they're still monitoring even after the plant is gone. Because of that toxic waste. The other question is, do you guys have to make a decision now from this last meeting, or is there another meeting? And I'm not putting you guys on the spot. I'm just saying it's kind of hard to make a decision when they didn't even tell the guys that are making a decision that they got revised plans. They didn't even get to look at it. And some of these questions that you may have had are on there, or maybe they're still not on there. Because we really didn't get too many answers on much that is going on here. And especially with a new set of plants that are on there, nobody knew that they came into the road, into the township. You know, I would like to see them, because some of the imperfections on the other one don't make any sense to me. All right? And I know the elevations that we looked at the last time, they were calling the elevations of the bottom of detention compared to what the elevation of the property is from that one lady's house. Because they're saying 60 feet, but it's 165 feet above her house. Because the elevation on the property. So I just don't see them giving us any answers. And I know you guys have a hard decision, but that's why we have it there. But I just mentioned, I don't see how you can make a decision when you don't even see all the plans that are even processed. Thank you.
Jerry Joyce, 254 Hamlet Road. Most of the questions I had tonight have been brought up. A big portion of that was what has been amended on these plans to protect us as residents of Kline Township. I want to know where the plans would be, that we would be able to inspect them as residents, so we can ask educated questions to you about approving this project. Just like to know where and when, since the secretary at the municipal building unfortunately is not available, we need to be able to look at these plans.
You're absolutely correct. There's been a bit of a personal problem that has prevented the township building to be open, and the plans that have been delivered, they were delivered to the professionals, and the reports that are made part of the record tonight. They had the opportunity to review the plans. They had the opportunity to provide the members of the planning commission with their review comments before tonight's meeting. But there will be another hearing. There will be another meeting of this planning commission before then, and as soon as we can get the township building available. The revised plans that have been delivered will be made available. We'll announce when they'll be able for the public to review, and we'll be able to have that opportunity to do it. We're trying to work through a personal situation the best we can, and we will continue to do so.
I appreciate that, and we would like to be notified. I have personal issues too that I deal with, that driving an hour and a half to get here, or a 4 o'clock meeting at the municipal building, taking off hours for work to get to this meeting, to listen to things that really aren't answered. So will this be in the standard speaker as well?
Sir, you just said that the zoning and the planning had ample time to review that new revised plan before today? That is what you just said. Is that correct? Ma'am, in the very beginning of this meeting, that is not what he said, and it is on record. I specifically asked the planning and I asked the zoning if they had opportunity to review those plans, and they all said no. And now you're telling me they did? It was just said at the very beginning of this meeting. Absolutely. And I, for the record, was denied access to looking at any plan last night by Supervisor Mr. Court. Flat out told me I could not look at them, that the preview period was over. You sat in that meeting and did not say a word. And right now, you're saying that they're going to be available for everybody? We have an ethics problem here, sir.
First of all, I believe when I tried to answer the question last night, you were the first one to tell me I could not answer the question that you wanted the supervisors to answer that. So that, if I can answer it, please, I'm extending to you the courtesy, please do the same for me. Secondly, what I said was, the revised plans that Amazon is referring to tonight have been shared with our professionals. And it is the basis of what's been marked as Exhibit 4 and Exhibit 5 that have been made part of the record. One consists of a 5-page report, one consists of an 8-page report. Am I correct, gentlemen, that you've had the opportunity to offer comment with regard to the revisions?
I'd also like to clarify that when we were asked if zoning had a chance to review those, I didn't get a chance to answer. And yes, we did review these plans, I visited the site, and we had time to review these plans.
Just 1 minute. So I believe when we first came up, you asked, did we, Lord, have a chance to see them? And I said, no, because I have not. And I do not believe these two don't. I believe what he was saying was the engineers did have a chance to see it, which is how they were able to write the report.
You added them as exhibits 5 and 6, 7, or 3 and 4. I wrote it down, yes. But sir, you should be ready. No, maybe you didn't get a chance to see them. Yes, I'm talking to you.
No, he can answer for himself, but you did ask us and didn't give us a chance to reply.
I might have been shaking my head no to him. I did not by any means mean that he did not review the plans. So
Okay, just make, so for the record, you all have looked at the revised plans prior to today.
Yes.
Thank you. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. Gotta clear the stage.
Okay, so I think we're just about everything here tonight. Thank everybody for coming here and let us know your concerns and any more actions toward this situation will be posted on the newspaper upcoming. Other than that, I don't have anything else for tonight. Thank you. Hang on, one thing I will say is, if I understand correctly, the plans that you guys have up here are the adjusted plans? Okay, so